This video is going to go over just the basics from this section for day 2, which is on relations. A relation is a set of ordered pairs. So we can write an ordered pair set like this. What it requires to be a set are the set brackets on the left and the right, and then my ordered pairs listed in between the two brackets separated by commas. Okay, we can also show the ordered pair by looking at a graph. So if I take these points that I have up here, let me erase that stuff. If I take these points, I take the first one, which is 1, 2. So I go right 1 and up 2 to this point. For -3, 4, I go left 3 and up 4 for this point. And for 5, 6, I go right 5 and up 6 for this point. So I have the 3 points that represent the ordered pairs in my relation. Another way to show a relation is to show it with a circle map. In this case, we need to remember that this is the circle of input numbers. That would be our x values. We also call that the domain. And this is the circle of the output values, which we also call the range. So what's important to remember here is that this is a mapping from the input values to the output value. So the way I would write that would be to say that the number 1 maps to the number 2. That would be an ordered pair. The number -3 maps to the number 4, and the number -5 maps to the number 6. And if I would put brackets around those, that is just the set notation for this relation. Let's take another look at the term domain and range. The domain is the set of all x coordinates, and the range is the set of all y coordinates. So for this example, I've got x coordinates 1, -3, and 5. If I list those in a set, I put them in order so they're easier to read, and then I put them in the set brackets. For the range, that would be the set of second coordinates, which are our y coordinates. If I list those in set brackets, that's considered our range. If your relation is shown as a circle mapping, it's very simple to find the domain and the range, because these values are the domain values and these values are the range values. So when I look at those together and write down what my domain and range are in set notation, I get this for my domain and this for my range. If you're given a graph that has points on it, you can either write down what the coordinates of the point are, like this is 5, 4, or you can just look at, we are interested in this point, and it uses the number 5 to get its x coordinate. And the same is going to be true for the other points. This point uses the value of 0. This point uses the value of -2, and this point here uses the value of 6. So if I look at my 4 points, I'm using the value of 5 and 6 for x coordinates, and 0 and -2. So I list those x values, -2, 0, 5, and 6. Now let's look at the range. The range is the y coordinates. So for this point, the range would include the number 4. Well, that's because this point is directly across from the number 4 on the y-axis. This point is directly across from the number 6 on the y-axis. This point is right on the y-axis, and that's a value of 2. And this point down here is straight across from -5. So I'm using -5, 2, 4, and 6. So those are the numbers that are listed for the range. So let's look at the domain and range of the graph of a segment that not only includes the endpoints but all the points in between. So for example, I need to find out what the coordinates are of all of these points so that I can include them. So if you kind of think about it, I'm using the x coordinates that are between -2 and +4 in order to get these points. Now I want to show you another way of looking at that, so I'm going to erase those for a second. What I sometimes like to do is, if I take two rectangles and come in from the left and the right so that my graph is in between, it will give me the domain. So in this case, my domain is all of the numbers between -2 and 4. So that's why it says here the domain is between -2 and 4. Okay, now I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to pick up these rectangles and I'm going to put them vertically. So I squeeze it in from the bottom and I squeeze it in from the top, and it looks like the y values that are still showing are the y values from -3 up to 1, and that's my range. So let's look at this other one. Let's do the same thing over here. So I'm going to take this rectangle and I'm going to squeeze it in from the right and left, and you can see that on this new one all of my values that are being used are sandwiched between -3 and +2. So that's my domain. Now if I take those same shapes and I put them coming from the top and the bottom, we can find our range. Our range numbers are going to be sandwiched in between -1 all the way up to 4. So that would be my range.